Welcome to a interesting video. I don't really know how to begin this, honestly, but we've got Tim here, and Tim, in our suspended players list investigation, we found that Tim is one of the longest banned players in Yu-Gi-Oh, longest banned. So I think he's second to some guy who's 10 years. But Tim, you're banned for 9 years, 17th of June 2015. To 17th of June 2024.
Right.
What's that about? Like, what the fuck do you do for 9 years? Like,
Right. Well, it all started in 2015. It's actually about a couple weeks before Nationals. I was living in Oklahoma City at the time, and there's a store in Tulsa, Oklahoma called Alien Games. And for those not familiar, Tulsa and Oklahoma City are about an hour and a half, 2 hours apart. And I had a friend who he bought and sold stuff, and then he was Chinese, so he'd go back to China with, the American stuff. And there was some stuff he still needed to get. So he and I went up there together in hopes to being able to, do some trades. And we went to their tournaments and played in them and hoping to get some stuff done. And that day, this kid lost 3 common Fiendish chains. Now, I had originally tried to trade him for these Fiendish chains earlier in the day, and long story short, he couldn't find them anywhere.
okay.
Now, being the nice guy that I am, and I guess I'm not always a nice guy, but I was, I've been talking to this kid all day, and I knew him, and I was like, you know what, man, if you lost your Fiendish chains, I'll just give you 3 of mine. So I gave him 3 of my cards, which were not technically my cards. Basically, I bought, sold, and traded for a friend, and basically in exchange for that, my life wasn't going well then. He let me play whatever deck I wanted, and I would get to go to events and stuff. And so I gave him 3 common Fiendish chains from that stuff. There was like 15 or 16. I don't know. There was a lot. I had a bunch of them. And after I leave, I get a call from their store owner. The store owner accused me of stealing the Fiendish chains from him and took it that I gave him those Fiendish chains as an admission of guilt, more or less. Well, as it turned out, she didn't want me to go to her regional that she hosts. And I said, okay, if you don't want me to go to your regional, that's fine.
So does anything come from that officially, or was it just like
yes.
the store was like, okay, you can come to our regional?
Yes. The theft for common Fiendish chains is 3 years of my 9 years banned. My original banning was 5 years. So how Konami works is they ban someone for a maximum of 3 years per instance. So they add whatever they want per instance onto that.
So initially, let me just get it straight. You got 5 years for I guess stealing from. Well, I mean, like, was there like conclusive proof and stuff? That was there an investigation, or like, because I'm going to assume you.
There really wasn't. So basically, it was my word against the stores.
Right.
And actually, as funny as it is, a couple years ago, Konami started doing the featured OTSs of the week, and Alien Games was their first OTS featured store. So I guess they have some sort of relationship with the people in Konami that I don't really understand or know very well. Their store isn't that, involved, it seems, in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, they only get like 5 to 10 players a week for their locals, host regionals. I was honestly surprised at how much pull they apparently had. But it continues, though.
So
the other 2 years,
about 5 years, though. So like, you got 5 years for. I mean, worst case scenario. Let's say you did do it. You got 5 years for stealing a playset of Fiendish chain from the store owner, or is it like store stock? Or is that how it's considered, or?
I really don't know. I think that more or less I think that how it worked out is she reported it to Konami and made it sound as if in a way as if it was a matter of fact, no question, that I stole these 3 common Fiendish chains from this kid.
Okay. And how did it go down to 3 years?
Well, that was that's 3 years. Like I said, for every instance, there's 3. So when I first got banned for 5, there's 2 instances. Now the next weekend was her regional, and at the time I was staying with a friend of mine, and his parents just had a rule that, hey, you're welcome to stay here, but when no one's home, we don't want you to be here, and that's just a rule that they've had, I guess, since forever. With any of his friends. So when they went to the regional, I went with them up to Tulsa. And I went into the convention center, but I sat, away from their event. I wasn't going to go in. Now, as funny as it is, because of everything that happened, there was kind of a bit of a shitstorm on the local social media about it. And so my friend and a couple of other people made some free Tim Bailey shirts, and a couple of people wore them and stuff. And more or less, I guess somebody told this tournament organizer that I was there in the store. Now, only a head judge can how do I put it? They entered me into their event and then disqualified me, even though I wasn't in attendance to their event, because I was sitting in this lobby a fair distance away from.
So you were signed up to a different event for Yu-Gi-Oh?
There was nothing. There was something else going on, but I wasn't involved in that. I just had to be out of the house where I was living, so I just went. My friend was going up to the regional, so I went with them up there, but I didn't go into their regional. I just sat outside. I was just waiting for the regional to be over.
Right. Okay.
So I guess somebody told them that I was there. And the head judge for her regionals is a guy that works at her store. So how it worked more or less is she told him to enter me into their tournament and then disqualify me. Now what that does, as everyone knows, is there's supposed to be a two-sided of the story. Now, with Konami, you can waive your right to say your side. So basically, they said that I waived my right to my side, and they disqualified me from the tournament. And I had no idea that they had done this in the first place. But they basically raised a big stink about me being in the building. And
I'm confused. Wait, so you didn't sign up to an event?
I did not sign up to go to the regional. I was just at the building where the regional was taking place.
So you didn't enter any tournament. You didn't. You just wanted to see your friends and stuff. So you showed up to the venue, and they entered you through your COSI and banned you and disqualified you.
Yes, they told me I wasn't allowed to come to the regional. Originally, that's the same store that hosted. The same store where the Fiendish Chain incident happened is this same store that's hosting this regional.
Okay.
I'd only come because I was living with my friend at the time, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. And his parents had a rule that I couldn't be in the house by myself, because they have a rule where when my friend has friends over, that those friends can't stay in the house by themselves. So I went with my friend who I was living with up to the regional. But I was only sitting on the couch waiting for them to be done with the regional, far away from where they were at.
Okay, and I guess so. I guess your argument is that they maliciously entered you and DQ'd you.
Yes, and they did, and they admit to doing that. And there's no rule against them doing that. Mm-hmm. Apparently, you can enter in anybody into your if, for example, a head judge at a YCS could enter in somebody, even if they're at McDonald's, and disqualify them. They can do that if they want to, if they see fit. I tried to understand everything that happened, because when this happened, I thought, this is just a misunderstanding. I'm going to be able to get out of this. I'm just going to have to talk to people, send in the email. And I couldn't even believe it was happening. Because when I got the news I was banned for 5 years, which, I mean, there's people that have gotten in fights or done illegal activities, and they've been banned for a year. And so I'm just I was so shocked. I was stunned. I thought that this lady had to have told several lies and just sweetened the story.
Yeah, I think so that 5 years for worst case scenario, let's say you actually did do it. Let's say you did steal and you did show up to an event. I guess 5 years probably is in excess of what most people get. But why did you? So you didn't get any dialogue with Konami? You didn't have any back and forth or witnesses or?
I did, and here's what's disturbing is my back and forth with Konami. my back and forth with Konami was kind of silly. So the first thing that happened is I found out I was banned for 5 years by social media. Konami hadn't even reached out to me at all. So I was like, what in the world's going on? They're supposed to send an email. So I was like, what is happening? How in the heck am I banned, right? Mm-hmm. And what is going on? Because at the time, like, about a month had passed. And so, like, I didn't expect anything to come of that. And I didn't know they'd entered me into the regional and disqualified me. So I thought I was just banned from that store or whatever. I mean, if they're going to be silly and be a circus like that anyways, I really didn't want to be involved with them anyhow. So I just thought, well, that stinks. I can't go with my friends to the Tulsa Regional anymore. And that's kind of how I took it and moved forward. So when I found out I was banned for 5 years, I was shocked. And I found out through social media. And then when I emailed Konami, and Konami emailed me back, and they basically said, you're banned because of these reasons. And it was like 2 years for trespassing, 3 years for theft, is what they told me in short. So I sent them another email back, and I was like, well, can I appeal this? You know, what's going on? Can you tell me exactly what you're talking about? They said they wouldn't go into any, like, further details, but they told me how I can appeal. So I thought about it, and I realized that it had to have had something to do with what happened with Alien Games. So I asked the store owner of Alien Games, like, did you, report me to Konami? What did you do? So she told me that they had disqualified me from their regional since I was there, even though I really wasn't at their regional. I was at the building, but I wasn't there. I wasn't even messing with people. I wasn't even interacting with people. I was sitting by myself on the couch. But long story short, I found out that that's what happened. So I set up this. I had witnesses and people who, talked on my behalf. A lot of people, they said, maybe Tim's not my favorite guy, but I know for sure he wouldn't steal anything. Or there would be people that would say, I was here. I had people that were there for the whole process, and they said, hey, look, this is what happened. This has been blown out of proportion. This isn't the case. This isn't what's going on. And I got together a really good appeal. I explained everything that happened. A lot of other people also emailed in information to them. And I waited. Now, what stunk about this happened about 4 or 5 days before Nationals that year. So I lost all the money that I put into paying for that trip already. And there's really no way to recover it in time, I guess, unless you're Billy Brake, because they did that for him really fast. But Konami doesn't really reply. If they reply, they take their sweet time. So this created another weird situation for me because I was staying with my friend and I wasn't doing well at the time. Because he was leaving and going somewhere else for a month. I was supposed to go with my friend, another friend of mine, to Nats, and then come home, stay with him for a couple weeks until my friend Zach, who's the guy I was staying with, came back. Because that happened, I had to find another place to live, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I ended up moving to Ohio with my aunt, which is just insane. I know this is crazy how life-changing this story became for me, but so I get up to Ohio and I start my new life, and I finally get an email from Konami. I think like 3 months later from when I responded to them. They literally said that they reached out. I told them the story for both the theft and the trespassing. And they said they reached out to the event center that held it. And the event center that held it just basically echoed the story of what the tournament organizer said. And what stinks about that is it's obvious that they were going to do that because they weren't asking me for details of their information. They were asking the store. So of course their story is going to match the store's because they're just a third party to this. So they determined, despite all of the emails and different things that people had sent in about what was going on, they determined in their mind that because they felt I lied about the trespassing, that meant that I automatically lost their trust and lied about the theft too. So they said that my ban stood. And there's really nothing
Why did they think you were lying about the trespassing? So I assume like the store entered you into it and said, yeah, you showed up and you entered.
Right. Right. They now I did speak to a person that worked at the event center when I was there because I told her, hey, I'm not entering your tournament. I'm going to stay away from there. But she insisted that I get kicked out of the convention center. And so that she got a worker from the convention center. And the convention center worker told me that I had to leave. And so basically that whole day I sat in the car and waited for my friends to be done with the regional for several hours.
How did 5 become 9?
So 5 became 9 because I entered locals with an alias name, and somebody told on me. I really did that. So I got 2 more years for.
But you moved away from your from what is it, Oklahoma to Ohio, right? So like, how did anyone know you to be able to steal it, to snitch on you?
Well, a lot of people just know me already. Because I went to a lot of YCS. I went to just about every YCS. I traveled as long as it wasn't crazy far. And even though I didn't have a bunch of tops or anything like that, a lot of people knew who I was either through YouTube or just by association. So like when I moved to places in the Yu-Gi-Oh communities, people really already know who I am for the most part. And I gotten permission from the stores that I played at, that they said it was cool that I played at their store or whatever, and I told them that, hey, I'm banned, and I would use a fake name, and if anything happened, then I would just take the blame for it, and I would, anyways. Okay. And so somebody told on me for playing at the store. I'm guessing I know who the person is, but I'm not really going to say this person's name. I don't really know him very well. He doesn't like me. I don't really know anything about this guy. The only reason why I know who he is because I'm pretty sure he told on me to Konami, and that's about all there is to that. But somebody told on me to Konami. Konami hit me with 2 years for taking part in their events anyways, which is usually a 6-month ban, and then another 2 years for using a different name other than my own legal name, which I don't know if they've ever done that to anybody before. But that seems like a long time. But basically I became banned forever. So that's what ended up with the other 9 years, with the other 4 years to make it 9.
So you got 4 years for ban evasion.
Yes.
That's yes. I mean, despite like let's say you did do all the shit. Let's say you did steal. Let's say you did ban evade the first time. 4 years. I did absolutely that, but 4 years does seem like pretty excessive.
It does, and what's weird is that when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I was living in the state of Washington when I was in high school. So my uncle was in the military, and that's what I lived with. And so I knew some of the guys, like I knew like Leighton and some guys that were really in deep with Konami. So I tried to message them and see if they could help me, and they really couldn't help me. And that's just like it's just weird because like I'd gone 7 years in the game without ever having a problem. 7 registered years under that Kasi ID. And then suddenly, one incident, like one story from one store got me banned for 5 years. And I just look back at that and I think it's crazy. And, but in the end, I honestly am kind of grateful it happened. Because a lot of us get really caught up in the game, and we let it kind of leak into our personal lives almost in a way. To contend at Yu-Gi-Oh! And to be good enough to practice, even to be an average player that can do somewhat well at a YCS, you've got to put in a lot of hours and a lot of time into Yu-Gi-Oh! And when that happened, I was first, of course, very depressed. I mean, I put in a lot of time, a lot of money. I mean, I traveled to tons of events all the time. And for that to happen, it definitely hurt. But in the long term, man, like, I got to step away for a while. So I stepped away for probably 6 to 8 months. And a good friend of mine, Eddie North, a lot of people know who he is. He's a really good Yu-Gi-Oh player. He doesn't really play anymore. He now plays Pokemon. But he and I ended up moving in together. And we kind of went through our grind together. And I went to a bunch of ARGs after that. And I'm really grateful for Jim for giving me the opportunity to play. But it really changed my perspective, man, because, like, before I'd gotten banned, I realized that I always tried just too hard. Like, it was important to me to do well, and that's for sure. but I also put so much pressure on myself that I became somewhat of an unpleasant person sometimes when I played the game. Sometimes being, maybe not being the most sportsmanlike, or being upset when I lost to something that was unlucky, and instead of just accepting things as part of the game. Now, any game you play competitively, when you lose to something that's not your fault or it's kind of lucky, you're always going to be a little upset. But I've learned how to handle that stuff a lot better, and I've had a better perspective on just life in general and how, Yu-Gi-Oh! Turned me into somebody I kind of wasn't, before that. Because I put in so much time and so much work, and it was almost like if I lost to a person who wasn't very good, I would get so mad. Because it's like, how much time you have to put in, how much effort to be good. And I just, sometimes I'm just not a good person. I definitely regret that. And I think that being banned has definitely helped me in that way. And then it's also helped me prioritize my life. I've done a better job of putting my life before cards. I'm not going to say that it was that cut and dry before, like I would do anything for cards. I wasn't like a crazy person or anything, but I definitely spent less time doing what mattered more than cards. I changed the way that I acted with that. So now, man, it's kind of crazy, but moving to Ohio has really, really made things better for me in my life. I'm now engaged. I have a 1-year-old son. I own a house, and it's just crazy. And I don't know that would have happened if I was never banned from Yu-Gi-Oh! At least not the way that it did. It wouldn't have, for sure.
Hey, well, I mean, as long as it's all working out and stuff, I mean, that's, I guess, the important thing. I just want to, double up on the story real quick, because, I see here you've got 3 Cossi IDs, right? So, I mean, your first one's your original one that you got banned for. And then, I just don't understand why you have 2 more, because if you didn't actually try and ban evade at that first event that got you up to 5 years, surely you should only really have 2 Cossi IDs at this point, no?
When I was ban evading and playing at locals, I made a Cossi ID originally, but I lost it. So I made another Cossi ID with the same name. And so they just got both of those. At least that's what I think happened.
Okay, right. I mean, I guess that does add up, and they're sort of within the same kind of time span, judging by the numbers. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their official policy is on bans and severity, but
I think how it works is they have a committee that gets together and they just kind of discuss things. They don't really have a great system in place. That's the one thing I'll say. In sporting events, in sports, or mostly any other competitive league, if you have an appeal in and they've accepted your appeal to at least review it, then most of the time how that works is that your ban would be lifted until your appeal is heard. And you get to talk to people face to face and have opportunities like that. And with Konami, you don't even get to talk to somebody on the phone. I mean, you only can email them. They respond to you whenever they want to. And really, their priority isn't in caring whether or not you were right or wrong. They really don't care, honestly. That's kind of my conclusion. I know of other people that have been banned for some kind of shady stuff. If they cared, they don't really care about if you're banned or why. I think they have a zero. They don't take risks. So if they think if it's possible, they just ban you and they don't worry about it. Billy Break being just about the only exception to that. But there was a lot of exceptions involved in that because he got responded to within a couple of days, which doesn't happen to most people.
Yeah, that was an interesting debacle. But we won't get into that. All right, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. I don't really have any specific questions to ask. That's your side of the story. It does seem a bit excessive for 9 years for what was that? Half of that ban is pretty much comprised of ban evasions and stealing. I don't know how long if you did steal. I actually don't know how much stealing gets you banned for.
3 is the max. So if I was stealing, I don't really have a problem with being banned for 3 years for the idea that I'm stealing. I just wish that instead of just assuming I did it, that they would actually do an investigation, and they would actually find out. And I know that they don't want to put resources into that, but at the same time, though, if you don't want to put resources into it, you shouldn't just assume someone's lying about it or assume somebody else is telling the truth. That's what really bothers me about the situation. But mostly, I don't blame Konami for this. First of all, I mostly blame Alien Games because I understand that Konami, in the end, they're only doing what they believe happened based upon the story that they got from Alien Games. So I don't really blame Konami for my original 5 years, and I don't blame them for the other 4 years because I actually did it. Might be a little excessive, but I actually tried to ban evade and play at locals, so like that actually 100% happened. So I can't complain about that, and that was the perception I had whenever I got it. I said, you know what, like I did it, so it is what it is. But I don't know, man. It was definitely crazy, man, and maybe in some way, shape, or form, it was karma that got me because, like I said, sometimes I wasn't as sportsmanlike or as kind as I should have been, previously to that.
How much was Fiendish Chain even worth at this time?
It was when Necros and VA were the best decks. I think that the only deck that played it was Satella Knights. I don't think it was free, but it wasn't an expensive card. It was like $5 or $6 probably.
That's crazy. Like three years over like a playset that's like $20
right.
at max. Like
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I already had so many of them, bro. Like I wouldn't do it. Like I used to have messages where I sent the lady at the store. I said, "Look at how many of these I have." Like I wouldn't steal any of them. I wouldn't steal anyways. But if you think about it, like from a thief, if you thought I would be a thief, why would I steal these cards? And it's just
yeah.
It was just crazy, man. Like,
do you plan on playing again?
I like to play. I still play at locals when I can, anyways. But I mean, at this point, like, I don't expect to ever be able to play mainstream Yu-Gi-Oh again. I just don't. I'm not necessarily a fan of the way the game is now, anyways, with the link mechanic and stuff. I think some stuff's cool, but like, I don't know, man. I think I'm probably just gonna play Pokemon.
Okay.
And just stick with that. But I do like Yu-Gi-Oh, and my favorite deck's the Wind-Up deck and the BA deck, and they're coming out with Link monsters for those, and one's already out. And so I mean, like, I could see myself maybe playing an ARG that's not like super far away, or
yeah.
But I think for the most part, I'm mostly done with Yu-Gi-Oh. But
I mean, you couldn't play in a store if you're banned from like the game. Like you couldn't even like beat in the store.
You can't.
Oh,
you can't.
Okay.
No, there's some stores that aren't sanctioned that I play at. And that's about it. Now, the reason why I got banned before is because I was also playing at stores where they were sanctioned, where they gave me permission to play as long as I used a fake ID. And yeah, but mostly I just play at unsanctioned stores just when I do play. But I really haven't. I've played in a couple of locals, I think, in the last year. I just haven't. Since my son's been born, my priorities have kind of changed a lot. So
yeah, for sure. All right. I mean, have you ever like cheated at the game or anything for this to be any sort like justified at all? Like, have you ever done anything in a major event or?
No, man, I really haven't. I think the most weird situation I've ever been in the game, like when it involved judges, is that YCS Dallas, the one that Billy Brake won. I played Denny Yu in round 8 or 9, I think, and he was like 8-0, and I was like 7-0-1, and it was a weird situation. We were playing a Burning Abyss Mirror, and I put my Dante in the graveyard and dropped a Seer on the table on accident. And instead of Ryza, basically, more or less, Denny thought I just normal summoned this Seer and not summoned Ryza, and it became this big judge fest, and then judges got pulled over. But, I mean, like, nothing happened from that. Neither of us got penalties or anything, so I don't know, man. I don't even think I've ever gotten a penalty. I think I got a penalty once at ARG for forgetting to write a card on my deck list, but besides that, man, I really have I've never gotten in any kind of trouble at any events ever.
All right, well, I mean, that's all fair enough. I mean, chat saying like, that's all good and stuff that you've got your family and shit together, so that's like what's most important. So
right.
In some ways I envy you, so getting banned, I guess, is a bit of a blessing in some cases.
Yeah, it can be, man, but that's all I say is, man, just remember it's a game and just take it a little bit more easy. Anybody that's watching, because I know that we get really invested into this stuff, and for good reason, you know. So,
all right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. So, if you've been watching this or whatever, thank you. This is, I guess, the other perspective of what goes on in the suspended player list, and this is how you get banned for 9 years. So, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Tim, for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Thanks.